Hey students! I am James Elder, and on today's show, we will be looking at economic growth. We have asked 4 professionals to come and talk about this topic in general. What is economic growth? Economic growth is the increase in the amount of the goods and services produced by an economy over time.
What are the causes of economic growth? Demand-side policies such as personal disposable income can bring about short-term economic growth.
Look at figure 1 on your paper now. It shows the economy's resources are not being used to the fullest extent possible. This means there is unemployment of resources and FOPs.
If aggregate demand increased from 81 to 82, then this would be removed, and real output would increase.
Similarly, in the PPC model, a movement from the dot in the inner circle to the other point. This shows economic growth, as an increase in real output is an increase in real GDP.
The increase in aggregate demand has brought about the need to employ those unemployed resources, moving the economy to the full employment of resources.
In this case, economic growth comes about by increasing the employment of the factors of production shown in the PPC model. The other point is not on the PPC but just close to it.
This is because an economy will never fully employ all resources to the fullest extent possible. Now look at figure 2. These diagrams show economic growth in the long run.
If I may just mention, an example of this is China. China's economy, in the year of 2011, grew by 7.6% as there was a high demand for fireworks to be exported. As you can see, there is an increase in GDP as a result of the shift in the Lorenz curve. The equivalent change is shown as an outward shift in the PPC.
This happens due to an increase in the quantity or quality of an economy's factors of production and advances in technology. This may come about through supply-side policies.
There are a few positive outcomes of economic growth. Economic growth has been achieved by great leaps in technology, which leads to advancements in areas such as medicine.
Such advancements have the possibility of making life easier and more pleasurable, contributing to higher living standards.
Higher incomes lead to greater tax revenues, so government could spend more on merit goods and public goods, improving living standards.
It can also reduce income inequalities. It can also bring an improvement in the competitiveness of a country's exports, leading to further increases in aggregate demand.
It also increases the demand for imports. Higher economic growth certainly affects the amount of trade that an economy engages in and can have a positive impact on living standards.
Some people argue that as national incomes rise, so do levels of education and human capital, and with it there is a greater demand for freedom and democracy.
This is very educational. Now, before we take a break to play the fruit game, I would like you to tell our audience about some of the negative outcomes of economic growth. It can be considered that an increase in incomes is not necessarily equivalent to an increase in happiness.
Higher incomes may come about by sacrificing leisure time and affect personal relationships, which doesn't mean better living standards.
Also, people may not be satisfied with what they have and may want more. Not everyone benefits from the economic growth to the same extent, and inequalities may widen.
Effect on the environment and negative externalities of production occur from producing a higher output of goods and services.
If I may input, rapid economic growth results in higher emissions of greenhouse gases. Higher national income is likely to result in higher levels of household waste.
Producing a higher level of output may also involve the depletion of non-renewable resources.
Economic growth may come at the expense of sustainable development. This may be diminished if the more educated and wealthier citizens can promote sustainability.
All in all, there are a few advantages and disadvantages associated with economic growth. Thank you for your attention. If you liked our lecture, please clap.